Have you ever felt like you were holding your breath through life? As if some invisible thread inside you is always taut, always bracing for the next disruption, the next demand, the next moment when things might fall apart. You go through the motions, smile, plan, push forward, but beneath it all something aches, not for more achievement, not for more control, but for release. For just one moment where you could pause, not because everything is finally perfect, but because your soul is tired of striving. Somewhere inside you sense there must be another way. And maybe, just maybe, in the hush of a late night or the stillness of an early morning, you've felt it, a silence that doesn't shout but hums, softly beneath the surface of your busy mind. A presence that doesn't ask for your attention, but waits patiently to be noticed. It's ancient, steady, and untouched by the chaos of daily life. This is the quiet truth Buddhist wisdom points to, not a promise of escape from life's storms, but a way to stand in the center of them with a grace that does not shatter. Have you ever realized how tightly you grip things? How exhausting it is to hold the world together with trembling hands, always anticipating disaster, always fixing, always managing? But here's the beautiful paradox. The moment you loosen that grip, something extraordinary happens. Life begins to flow, not in straight lines or neat outcomes, but in a way that feels deeply honest. There's a rhythm to it, a movement that doesn't need your control, only your trust. And in that letting go, something familiar stirs inside you, something that feels like home. Perhaps this is what surrender truly means, not giving up, but giving in to the natural rhythm that has been calling you all along, not fighting the current, but floating with it, not abandoning life, but meeting it with open palms, willing to see what unfolds. Because when you stop trying to shape every moment, you give life the space to show you something better than you could have ever planned. And that's where peace begins, not in the tightening, but in the release. Imagine, even for a moment, what it would be like to live free of that ever-present companion called worry, to walk through your day without the low hum of anxiety forecasting storms that may never come. Picture the space that would open up inside you if you no longer rehearsed every possible failure before it even had a chance to exist. What if you could simply step out of the cage, yes, the cage, that your fears have built around your life? What if freedom isn't something you find, but something you remember? Buddhism doesn't promise a life without pain. It doesn't offer a shield from uncertainty, but it does offer a path, a way of being that softens our suffering by shifting how we relate to it. It teaches us that control is, more often than not, an illusion, and the tighter we hold on to it, the more fragmented we feel. Because deep down, what we're really trying to control isn't life, it's our fear of not being okay when life changes, when it disappoints, when it doesn't obey our carefully drawn plans. And so the question arises, why do we cling so desperately to control in the first place? Why do we white-knuckle our way through uncertainty as if we could wrestle peace out of chaos? It's a question that echoes through every overthinking mind and every sleepless night. The answer is not simple, but the path forward is begin to notice the tension, the resistance, the fear, and instead of trying to conquer it, breathe with it. Meet it with curiosity, not judgment. Let it soften. Let it pass. This is not passivity. This is not surrender in the defeatist sense. This is the beginning of a different kind of strength, a strength rooted not in control but in clarity, trust, and presence. The same presence that lives quietly beneath all the noise, patiently waiting to guide you back home. From the earliest days of our lives, we're taught a powerful, unspoken lesson that control is the key to safety. That if we can just plan enough, prepare enough, predict enough, we'll be protected. Shielded from failure, insulated from pain. We're raised to believe that certainty is security, and that if we can micromanage every detail of our lives, we can somehow outsmart the unknown. But here's the great paradox. The very control we believe will keep us safe so often becomes the source of our deepest suffering. It's like trying to hold water in your palm. The tighter you grip, the quicker it slips through your fingers. What begins as a strategy to avoid pain becomes the very thing that fuels it. Every effort to secure your peace by force begins to unravel it from within. And slowly, without realizing it, we begin to live not in freedom but in fear. Fear of change. Fear of uncertainty. Fear of losing what we've clung so tightly to. Buddhist wisdom offers a quiet, radical alternative. It doesn't tell us to fight the fear. It invites us to see it clearly, to understand that fear isn't just a passing emotion, it's a filter, a lens that colors the way we see the world. When fear takes root in the mind, it distorts everything. It magnifies shadows, invents threats, and tricks us into believing that danger is everywhere. It tightens our grip and closes our hearts. But here's the liberating truth. We are not helpless against this fear. We are the gardeners of our inner world. We choose what we nurture. Each thought is a seed, and every moment of awareness is a chance to plant something different. We can feed the fear, or we can water the calm. We can rehearse catastrophe, or we can return to presence. This path doesn't begin with grand gestures. It begins with something simple, a pause, a breath, a willingness to look inward and ask, is this thought true? Is it helpful? Is it kind? And in that space between reaction and response, we find the first spark of freedom. We remember that the future we're bracing against hasn't arrived, that the storms we're preparing for might never come. That right now, in this moment, we are okay. And this moment, this quiet, unassuming now, is the only place peace can truly live. Not in the next achievement, not in the perfectly executed plan, but here, in the breath, in the awareness, in the letting go. As we move deeper into this journey of Buddhist insight, we'll come to see that surrender isn't weakness, it's courage. It's not about giving up, it's about giving over. It's about loosening the mental grip that's been strangling our joy and discovering that real strength doesn't come from control but from clarity, openness, and trust. We'll begin to see that anxiety lives in the realm of what if, but peace lives in the presence of what is, that so many of the things we fear never actually happen. And even when life doesn't go according to plan, we're far more resilient than we realize. We'll come to recognize that the tightness in our chest, the worry behind our eyes, the constant tension in our shoulders, these are the physical symptoms of carrying burdens that were never truly ours to bear. Control, we'll learn, is often the enemy of faith, and it's only when we release our desperate need to steer the ship that we allow the winds of life to carry us towards something far greater than anything we could have mapped out on our own. When we step back, life steps in. So take a deep breath, not a shallow one but a real breath, one that reaches all the way into your belly. Exhale the weight, soften your grip, let go, not in despair but in devotion. Let go so that life can show you what's possible when you're no longer in the way. Because when you stop trying to force the path, you begin to walk it with grace. When you stop interfering, you realize life has never been against you. It's only ever been waiting for your trust, and in that sacred space of surrender, you don't find chaos, you find clarity. You don't find weakness, you find peace. You find depth. You find a life that was meant not to be controlled, but experienced fully, bravely, and with an open heart. Lesson 1. Fear is a seed. In the wide and timeless field of Buddhist wisdom, there exists a lesson so simple, so quietly powerful, that it almost goes unnoticed, yet it holds the key to profound transformation. Fear, it teaches us, is not merely an emotion, it is a seed, and like all seeds, it grows when nurtured. It takes root in the rich soil of the mind, and with enough attention, enough repetition, enough belief, it blossoms into a reality that can consume us entirely. This first lesson invites us not to reject or suppress fear, but to truly look at it, to sit with it, to understand its nature not as an enemy, but as a powerful force that can either distort our reality or, if we tend to it wisely, become a doorway to peace. The nature of fear. Fear is one of our oldest companions. It was born with us, carved into our DNA, a survival mechanism meant to keep us safe from harm. In its purest form, fear is intelligent. It sharpens our senses, urges us to flee danger, prepares us to protect ourselves. But in the modern world, where most threats are not physical but emotional, social, or imagined, fear often loses its usefulness and becomes something else entirely, a lens through which we misperceive life. From the Buddhist view, what we carry within ourselves, be it joy, anger, peace, or fear, doesn't just stay inside, it radiates outward. It touches the way we think, the choices we make, the way we speak and move through the world. Fear, then, isn't just a feeling that passes through, it becomes a worldview. And when this fear remains unexamined, it takes root like a vine, slowly wrapping itself around every area of life. You may begin with just a single anxious thought, but that thought, like a seed, draws in more energy, more what-ifs, more worst-case scenarios, more mental rehearsals of failure or rejection, and before long, your inner garden begins to reflect that focus. You start living not from clarity, but from contraction, not from trust, but from tension. And the irony is heartbreaking. The more we fear a certain outcome, the more we subtly shape our world to bring it about, not because the universe punishes us, but because our fear alters how we show up in the world. Fear is a self-fulfilling prophecy. Imagine the fear of losing your job. At first, it may arrive as a whisper, a quiet anxiety in the back of your mind. But if that whisper is fed with worry, rumination, and self-doubt, it begins to grow. You may start holding back in meetings, second-guessing your ideas, hesitating to take initiative. The energy of fear begins to cloud your judgment, your posture, even the tone of your voice. You don't mean to withdraw, but fear tells you to play it safe. You don't mean to underperform, but fear urges you to avoid risks. And slowly, the very thing you were afraid of, being seen as uncertain, as unmotivated, as replaceable, starts to take shape. Not because it was destined, but because fear dictated your path. The same pattern reveals itself in relationships. If you carry the fear of abandonment, it doesn't simply sit still in your chest. It moves. It speaks through your words. It holds your hand too tightly. It questions when there's nothing to question. It creates tension where there could have been ease. And the more you act from that fear, the more strain it creates, often pushing others away, the very result you feared most. It's a cycle, a shun one, a loop where fear feeds the behavior that fulfills it. Each time it plays out, it grows stronger. But here's the truth that Buddhist wisdom gently reminds us: it doesn't have to be this way. The mind as soil. In Buddhist teachings, the mind is often likened to soil, neutral, fertile, and incredibly receptive. It does not judge what you plant. Whether you bury a seed of fear or a seed of calm, the soil will nourish it just the same. And this is both the danger and the opportunity. You are the gardener. Every day, with every thought, every reaction, you are choosing what takes root in the garden of your mind. And this lesson is not about pretending fear doesn't exist. It's not about forced positivity or blind optimism. It's about awareness, about choosing, again and again, to step out of reactivity and into mindfulness. When fear arises, as it naturally will, you don't have to become its caretaker. You can pause, you can breathe, you can meet it with curiosity rather than panic. You can ask, is this thought bringing me closer to peace or pulling me deeper into fear? That one question holds power. It loosens the grip, it interrupts the cycle. It reminds you that while you can't always control what thoughts arise, you can choose which ones to water. And in that space, even the smallest seed of calm can begin to grow, slowly, gently, steadily. This is the heart of the first lesson. Fear is not your enemy. It is a seed, and you are not helpless in the face of it. You are the gardener. The soil of your mind is listening. What will you choose to plant? The power of presence. Fear thrives in the realm of the unknown, the what-ifs and what might go wrong that occupy our minds. It pulls us out of the present moment and into a future that doesn't yet exist. However, Buddhist teachings remind us that peace resides in the now. When you feel fear rising, gently bring your attention back to the present moment. Notice your breath, the sensations in your body, and the world around you. In this moment, you are okay. The future you fear hasn't arrived, and it may never. By repeatedly returning to the present, you weaken fear's grip and strengthen your connection to inner peace. Cultivating a new inner landscape. The journey of transforming fear begins with awareness. Start by observing your thoughts without judgment. When fear arises, acknowledge it, but don't become consumed by it. Ask yourself, am I focusing on what's actually happening, or am I creating a story about what might happen? Shift your attention to what you can control in the present moment. If you're afraid of failing at a task, focus on taking small, actionable steps rather than worrying about the outcome. By doing so, you're planting seeds of calm and empowerment in your mind. Mindfulness practices such as meditation and mindful breathing can be invaluable tools. They help you develop the capacity to observe your thoughts without becoming entangled in them. Over time, you'll find that fear loses its power to dominate your experience. The ripple effect of fear. Fear isn't just a personal struggle. It has a ripple effect that extends to our relationships and communities. When we're consumed by fear, we may become reactive, defensive, or withdrawn, impacting those around us. By learning to manage and transform our fear, we not only improve our own well-being but also contribute to a more harmonious environment. Consider how your fear might be influencing your interactions with others. Are you projecting uncertainty or doubt? By releasing fear and embracing presence, you create space for more authentic and positive connections. Embracing fear as a teacher. Interestingly, Buddhist teachings don't suggest that fear should be eliminated entirely. Instead, fear can be viewed as a teacher, a signal that something within us needs attention. When fear arises, it's an opportunity to explore what lies beneath it. What are you truly afraid of? What vulnerability is being exposed? By examining fear with curiosity rather than resistance, you can uncover deeper truths about yourself and your needs. This process of self-inquiry transforms fear from a source of suffering into a guide toward greater self-awareness and growth. The path forward. Transforming fear into peace is a journey, not a destination. It requires patience, practice, and self-compassion. Here are some steps to help you on this path. Pause and breathe when fear arises. Take a moment to pause and breathe deeply. This simple act can interrupt the cycle of fear and bring you back to the present. Question your thoughts. Ask yourself if the thoughts fueling your fear are based on reality or imagination. Often, fear is rooted in hypothetical scenarios rather than actual events. Practice mindfulness. Regular meditation or mindful breathing can help you develop greater awareness of your thoughts and emotions. Focus on what you can control. Direct your energy toward actions you can take in the present rather than dwelling on uncertain futures. Cultivate gratitude. Shifting your focus to what you're grateful for can counterbalance fear and create a more positive inner landscape. Conclusion. Fear is a powerful force, but it doesn't have to control your life. By understanding fear as a seed that grows when nurtured, you can begin to take charge of your inner world. Through awareness, presence, and mindful action, you can transform fear into a source of clarity and peace. Remember that you are the gardener of your mind, and with each conscious choice, you can cultivate a landscape of tranquility and joy. The path begins with a single step, a step toward acknowledging fear, understanding it, and choosing a different way to respond. Lesson 2. True strength lies in surrender. We live in a world that worships strength, but only a certain kind, the kind that pushes harder, climbs higher, plans further. From an early age, we are taught that to survive, let alone succeed, we must be in control. Control our time, control our emotions, control our careers, our relationships, our futures. Strength, we're told, lies in mastery over ourselves, over others, over life. But Buddhist wisdom gently, yet boldly, offers a different truth, one that challenges this relentless chase for control and invites us to redefine strength not as resistance, but as release, not as the power to hold on, but the courage to let go. This lesson whispers something counterintuitive yet deeply liberating. True strength is not found in domination, but in surrender. The illusion of control. In our modern world, so fast, so loud, so driven, we are conditioned to believe that control is the antidote to chaos. That if we manage every detail, anticipate every possibility, and micromanage every outcome, we can secure happiness. That control is our shield against uncertainty, against heartbreak, against loss. But beneath this obsession lies something quieter, something more vulnerable: fear. We grip tightly, not because we are powerful, but because we are afraid. Afraid of what might happen if we don't succeed. Afraid of what might unravel if we don't stay vigilant. Afraid of what we might have to feel if we simply stop trying to hold everything together. Control, then, becomes our armor. We wear it like protection, believing it will insulate us from disappointment, from pain, from the unknown. But slowly, it becomes a cage. It narrows our view of life. It demands perfection, and worst of all, it never truly delivers on its promise. Because no matter how tightly we hold on, life still moves in its own mysterious way. The world keeps spinning. Change keeps arriving. Loved ones grow old. Opportunities come and go. Storms sweep in without warning. Even the most meticulous plan can be undone by a single unexpected event. The COVID-19 pandemic reminded us all of this. In a matter of days, the illusion of control we had built around our lives shattered. Careers paused, routines dissolved, futures rewritten. And perhaps that's the lesson. Life doesn't ask for our control, it asks for our trust. From the Buddhist perspective, the root of our suffering is not life itself, but our attachment, our clinging to how we think life should be. We forget that we are not separate from the world around us. We are not isolated operators pulling levers. We are threads in a vast, interconnected web, part of the rhythm, not above it. And when we fight to control what is meant to flow, we create friction where there could have been ease. Surrender as sacred release. But what does it mean to surrender? In the Buddhist sense, surrender is not defeat. It's not giving up or giving in. It is, in fact, one of the most courageous acts of spiritual maturity. Surrender is the willingness to soften your grip on certainty. It is the conscious choice to stop resisting what is and begin trusting what could be. To surrender is to say, I do not have to know what comes next in order to be at peace right now. It's an invitation to align with life, not control it. To allow the river to carry you, even if you cannot see around the bend. It's about releasing your attachment to outcomes and remembering that life has its own intelligence, one that extends far beyond your limited perspective. Surrender is the moment you stop demanding answers and start asking better questions. It's when you trade anxiety for curiosity, control for presence, fear for faith. This is not passivity. This is not disengagement. It's a powerful, sacred release. One that makes room for grace. Because here's the miracle: when you finally let go of your need to force things into place, life begins to move with you, not against you. Possibilities you never imagined begin to emerge. Peace arises not because circumstances are perfect, but because you are no longer resisting what is. Surrender is the doorway, the threshold, the turning point between struggle and serenity. It's standing in the middle of chaos and choosing to breathe instead of brace. It's realizing that strength isn't the tight fist, it's the open hand. It's not the fight to dominate life, but the willingness to dance with it. So if you've been holding on tightly, trying to control what cannot be controlled, perhaps now is the moment to pause, to exhale, to place your trust not in your plans, but in the pulse of life itself. Because real strength, the kind that endures, comes not from bending the world to your will, but from bending gently with the world. In that space of surrender, you won't find weakness. You'll find clarity, stillness, and a quiet power that was always yours to begin with. The water analogy beautifully illustrates this principle. Imagine holding water in your cupped hands. The tighter you squeeze, the faster the water slips through your fingers. But when you relax your grip and hold your hands open, the water remains. Similarly, in life, when we cling too tightly to our ideas, desires, and expectations, we often push away the very things we seek. By softening our grip and surrendering to the flow, we allow life to move through us in ways we couldn't have anticipated or controlled. The paradox of strength and surrender. Surrender doesn't weaken us, it empowers us. It requires immense courage and inner strength to let go of our need for control and trust in something greater than ourselves. It asks us to confront our deepest fears and insecurities and to step into the unknown with faith and openness. When we surrender, we release the energy we've been expending in fruitless efforts to control outcomes. This energy returns to us, restoring our vitality and clarity. Our minds become less cluttered with worry and anxiety, allowing us to see opportunities and solutions that were previously obscured by our fixation on control. We become more present, more attuned to the needs of the moment, and more capable of responding authentically and effectively. Moreover, surrender invites grace into our lives. When we step aside and allow life to flow naturally, we create space for synchronicities, unexpected blessings, and serendipitous encounters. We become receptive to the wisdom and guidance that surrounds us, but often goes unnoticed when we're preoccupied with controlling every detail. Practicing surrender in daily life. Surrender isn't an abstract concept to be contemplated, but a practice to be integrated into our daily lives. It begins with cultivating awareness of the ways in which we cling to control and the anxiety that arises from this clinging. Here are some practical ways to embody the practice of surrender. Mindfulness meditation. Regular mindfulness meditation helps us develop the capacity to observe our thoughts and emotions without becoming entangled in them. By sitting quietly and focusing on our breath, we learn to witness the arising of the need for control and the fear that underlies it. We can then choose to release these thoughts rather than acting on them. Meditation also strengthens our connection to the present moment, where surrender naturally occurs. The practice of non-attachment doesn't mean indifference, but rather a healthy detachment from outcomes. We can take inspired action in the world while releasing our fixation on how things must turn out. This allows us to engage fully with our endeavors without the paralyzing fear of failure or disappointment. For example, when working on a creative project, focus on the joy of the process rather than the end result. Allow yourself to express your creativity without demanding a specific outcome. Letting go of the need to fix in relationships. Surrender invites us to release our need to fix or change others. We can offer support and compassion while honoring the autonomy and wisdom of those around us. This creates space for authentic connection and allows others to grow and evolve at their own pace. When conflict arises, practice listening without immediately jumping to solutions. Sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is to simply be present with another's experience, trusting that life's rhythm will guide us toward resolution. Trusting life's rhythm. Develop a daily practice of reminding yourself that life has its own timing and flow. When you feel frustrated by delays or obstacles, take a moment to pause and breathe. Acknowledge that these challenges are part of life's natural rhythm and that they may be serving a purpose you can't yet see. Nature provides a beautiful example of this principle. Flowers don't force themselves to bloom. They wait for the right season. Similarly, trust that your goals and desires will unfold in their right time. Overcoming resistance to surrender. Our resistance to surrender often stems from a place of fear and ego. The ego seeks to maintain control as a way to preserve its sense of identity and security. It fears that surrendering means losing power or becoming vulnerable, but in reality, surrender is the ultimate act of courage and trust. To overcome this resistance, begin by examining your beliefs about control and strength. Ask yourself, how has my attachment to control served me, and in what ways has it limited me? What fears underlie my need for control? What might I gain by releasing my need to control every aspect of my life? Journaling can be a powerful tool for exploring these questions and tracking your journey toward surrender. Write about situations where your attempts to control outcomes led to frustration or anxiety, and reflect on what might have happened if you had surrendered instead. Embracing surrender as a spiritual practice. Surrender is not merely a technique for reducing stress or achieving success. It's a spiritual practice that invites us into a deeper relationship with life itself. It's an acknowledgement that we are part of something greater than ourselves, a vast interconnected web of existence that operates according to its own divine principles. When we surrender, we align ourselves with these principles and become participants in the greater unfolding of life. We recognize that we are not separate from the universe, but an integral part of its continuous dance of creation and transformation. This realization brings with it a profound sense of peace, belonging, and purpose. The transformative power of surrender. The journey of surrender is a path of transformation. As we continue to practice releasing our need for control, we begin to experience profound shifts in our being. Increased resilience. By surrendering to life's natural flow, we develop greater resilience in the face of challenges. We learn to ride the waves of life rather than being overwhelmed by them. Deeper connection. Surrender invites us into more authentic relationships with others and with ourselves. When we release our need to control, we create space for genuine intimacy and understanding. Enhanced creativity. The energy previously consumed by worry and anxiety becomes available for creative expression. We become more open to inspiration and new possibilities. Greater joy. Living in alignment with life's rhythm allows us to experience joy in the present moment, unclouded by fear of the future or attachment to the past. Conclusion. Surrender is not an end, but a beginning, a portal to a more peaceful, authentic, and fulfilling way of life. It asks us to release our illusions of control and to trust in the wisdom of life's natural flow. By embracing surrender as a spiritual practice, we discover a strength that is not rooted in domination, but in alignment, a strength that is resilient, adaptive, and profoundly liberating. The journey towards surrender is ongoing, requiring patience, compassion, and perseverance. It's a path that invites us to continually revisit our relationship with control, fear, and trust. With each step we take towards surrender, we move closer to a life of harmony, peace, and profound connection with all that is. Lesson 3. Anxiety belongs to tomorrow. Peace belongs to now. In the tapestry of Buddhist teachings, a thread that weaves through each lesson is the profound connection between our perception of time and our experience of peace. Central to this understanding is the recognition that anxiety, that gnawing feeling of unease about what might happen, is firmly rooted in the future, a future that doesn't yet exist. Conversely, peace, that quiet sense of contentment and stillness, resides in the present moment. This lesson invites us to explore the nature of anxiety, how it disconnects us from the present, and how mindfulness can bring us back to the peace that already exists within us. The nature of anxiety. Anxiety is a universal human experience. It manifests in various forms: worry about financial stability, fear of social judgment, stress over future uncertainties. At its core, anxiety is a mental projection into the future, a preoccupation with what might go wrong. It's a product of the mind's tendency to spin narratives about scenarios that haven't happened and may never happen. Buddhism recognizes that anxiety isn't merely an emotional response, but a cognitive process that distorts our reality. When anxiety takes hold, it pulls us out of the present moment and into a mental realm of hypotheticals and what-ifs. This mental time travel to the future creates a disconnect between where our minds are and where our bodies actually exist, right here, right now. The illusion of the future. The concept of the future is both necessary and illusory. It's necessary because planning and preparing for what lies ahead are essential for survival and growth. But it's illusory because the future, as we imagine, it doesn't exist in any tangible form. The future is a mental construct, a collection of thoughts and images that we assemble based on past experiences and current fears or desires. When we allow our minds to become consumed by this imagined future, we create suffering for ourselves. We suffer not from what is happening, but from what we fear might happen. We project our anxieties onto a blank canvas of time, painting scenarios that may never come to pass. In doing so, we rob ourselves of the present moment, the only place where life actually occurs. The power of the present moment. The present moment is the anchor of peace. It's the only time that truly exists. In this moment you are breathing, you are alive, and you are okay. The present moment is free from the narratives of the past and the fears of the future. It's a space of clarity, stillness, and possibility. Buddhist teachings emphasize that peace isn't something we need to search for externally. It's already within us. Buried beneath the noise of our anxious thoughts, by returning to the present moment, we can uncover this nasad at Pengen and begin to experience life in a more authentic and fulfilling way. Mindfulness, the path to presence. Mindfulness is the practice of bringing our full attention to the present moment without judgment. It's about observing our thoughts, feelings, and sensations as they arise without getting caught up in them. Mindfulness is the antidote to anxiety because it breaks the cycle of mental time travel and grounds us in the reality of the here and now. Cultivating mindfulness in daily life. Mindfulness isn't just a meditation practice, it's a way of life. Here are some practical ways to cultivate mindfulness and return to the present moment. Mindful breathing. The breath is a powerful anchor to the present. When anxiety arises, bring your attention to your breath. Notice the sensation of the air entering and leaving your nostrils, the rise and fall of your chest. If your mind wanders, gently bring it back to the breath. This simple practice can be done anywhere, anytime, and can quickly ground you in the present. Sensory awareness. Engage your senses fully in whatever you're doing. When you're eating, really taste your food. Notice its texture, flavor, and aroma. When you're walking, feel the sensation of your feet touching the ground. Listen to the sounds around you. Observe the colors and shapes in your environment. By immersing yourself in your sensory experience, you bring yourself back to the present moment. Mindful pausing throughout your day. Take brief pauses to check in with yourself. Stop what you're doing, close your eyes, and take a few deep breaths. Ask yourself, where am I? What am I doing? What am I feeling? This practice helps you break the autopilot mode that often leads to anxiety and reconnects you with the present. Letting go of judgment. Mindfulness involves observing your thoughts and feelings without judgment. When anxiety arises, instead of labeling it as bad or trying to push it away, simply acknowledge it as anxiety and allow it to be present. By resisting or judging our anxiety, we often intensify it. Acceptance, paradoxically, can create space for it to dissolve. The neuroscience of mindfulness. Modern science supports the Buddhist understanding of mindfulness and its impact on anxiety. Studies have shown that regular mindfulness practice can reduce activity in the brain's default mode network, which is responsible for mind-wandering and self-referential thinking processes closely linked to anxiety. Mindfulness increases activity in brain regions associated with emotional regulation and focus, helping us stay grounded in the present moment. Furthermore, mindfulness has been shown to decrease the production of stress hormones, like cortisol, and increase the production of neurotransmitters, like serotonin, which are associated with well-being. This physiological shift helps explain why mindfulness can reduce anxiety and foster a greater sense of peace. The ripple effect of presence. The practice of mindfulness and presence doesn't just benefit us individually, it has a ripple effect on those around us. When we're present, we're better able to connect with others authentically. We listen more attentively, respond more thoughtfully, and create space for meaningful relationships to flourish. In workplaces, schools, and communities, the cultivation of presence can lead to more collaborative and harmonious environments. When we're not preoccupied with anxiety about the future, we can engage more fully with the tasks and people before us, leading to greater productivity and satisfaction. Overcoming obstacles to presence. Despite the benefits of mindfulness and presence, many obstacles can prevent us from fully embracing this practice. Here are some common challenges and strategies to overcome them. The business trap. Our modern lives are filled with distractions and demands that pull us away from the present moment. Work, technology, social commitments, all compete for our attention. To overcome this, establish dedicated times for mindfulness practice, even if just a few minutes a day. Create boundaries around your time to minimize distractions and prioritize presence. The judgment of the mind. The mind often resists mindfulness, labeling it as boring or unproductive. Recognize that this resistance is normal and part of the practice. When you notice judgment arising, acknowledge it without criticism and gently return to your focus on the present. The craving for control. Anxiety often stems from a desire to control outcomes. Mindfulness invites us to release this need for control and trust in the present moment. Remind yourself that presence doesn't mean passivity, but rather a deeper engagement with life as it unfolds. Embracing peace as a way of life. The journey toward presence and peace is not about eliminating anxiety entirely, but about developing a healthier relationship with it. Anxiety, like fear, can serve as a signal that something within us needs attention. By meeting anxiety with mindfulness, we can transform it from a source of suffering into a guide toward greater self-awareness. As we continue to practice returning to the present moment, we begin to experience life differently. We become more attuned to the beauty and richness of each moment. We find that peace isn't something we need to achieve, but something we can recognize and rest into even amid life's challenges. Conclusion. Anxiety belongs to tomorrow, but peace belongs to now. By understanding the nature of anxiety and its connection to the future, we can begin to dismantle its hold on our lives. Through mindfulness and the cultivation of presence, we can return to the present moment, the only place where peace exists. This practice doesn't require grand gestures or profound changes. It asks only that we begin where we are with this breath, this step, this moment. In doing so, we discover that peace has been with us all along, waiting patiently for us to notice it. Lesson 4. The burden of imagined fears. On the path through Buddhist wisdom, we eventually come face to face with a truth that touches nearly every life, yet so often remains hidden beneath the surface. Much of the suffering we carry isn't caused by what's happening now, but by what we imagine might happen later. It is not the storm itself that breaks us, it is the endless waiting, bracing, and rehearsing for a storm that may never come. This lesson invites us to look closely, not at what is real, but at what is imagined, the fears that live in our minds, not in our lived experience. Because it's here, in this quiet space between thought and truth, that we begin to realize just how much weight we are carrying unnecessarily. The weight of imagined fears. The human mind is a master storyteller. Without our permission, it writes entire novels, scenes of disaster, heartbreak, humiliation, failure. It paints vivid images of futures that haven't happened and may never happen, yet the emotions they evoke feel every bit as real as if they were unfolding in this moment. We lose sleep over conversations we've never had. We brace for rejections that never come. We rehearse grief, loss, and endings over and over in our minds until we feel hollow, until we forget that none of it has even happened. This is the burden of imagined fear. We suffer not from what is, but from what might be. These mental projections don't stay neatly tucked away in the corners of our thoughts. They spill into our bodies, our choices, our relationships. They drain our energy, cloud our perception, and pull us away from the only place where peace is possible right now. We end up missing the life we're living because we're too busy preparing for a life we're afraid might come. Buddhism doesn't shame us for this tendency. Instead, it shines a gentle light on it. It reminds us that much of what we experience as suffering is not rooted in the present moment, but in our resistance to imagined futures, and it offers us the tools not to suppress these thoughts, but to meet them with awareness and clarity. The mind as a novelist. The same mind that gives rise to anxiety is also the source of imagination, creativity, and problem-solving. It's not inherently flawed, it's just overactive. Evolution shaped our minds to scan for threats, to anticipate danger, to prepare for the worst. This negativity bias once kept our ancestors alive. But in the modern world, where the threats are less about survival and more about uncertainty, embarrassment, or failure, this bias can turn against us. Our minds spin stories, often unconsciously, that lean toward fear. We forecast catastrophes. We prepare for rejection. We assume the worst. And most of the time, those fears never materialize. The conversation goes better than we expected. The problem resolves itself. The moment we dreaded passes quietly, and we're left wondering why we spent so much time suffering for something that never arrived. This is the trap of worry. It masquerades as preparation, but it rarely leads to peace. Instead, it binds us in a cycle of mental suffering, repeating and reinforcing the very fears we want to avoid. The neuroscience of imagined fears. Modern science now echoes what Buddhist teachings have long known. The mind simulations feel real. Neuroscience shows that when we imagine a future event, our brain activates many of the same neural circuits that would engage if the event were actually happening. This is known as the simulation theory of imagination. In other words, the brain doesn't always distinguish between thought and experience. If you imagine failure, rejection, or disaster in enough detail, your body begins to respond as if it's happening, triggering stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. Your heart races. Your breath shortens. Your muscles tense. This happens not in response to life, but to thought. Over time, these stress responses accumulate. Chronic worry takes a toll on the body and the mind, leading to anxiety, depression, fatigue, and even physical illness. The fears we imagine can quite literally make us sick, not because life is attacking us, but because our minds are caught in a loop of fear-based storytelling. Distinguishing reality from imagination. One of the most powerful shifts we can make, the beginning of freedom, is learning to distinguish between reality and imagination. A thought, no matter how convincing, is still just a thought. It is a mental event, not a guaranteed truth. Buddhist practice encourages us not to blindly believe every thought that passes through the mind. Instead, we are invited to witness them, to develop discernment, to pause long enough to ask, is this true, or is this fear pretending to be fact? Is this a reflection of what's actually happening, or a shadow cast by past pain? What would happen if I didn't believe this thought? In asking these questions, something extraordinary begins to happen. We create space between the thought and our emotional reaction. In that space, we find the power to choose a different response. We can let the thought drift by like a cloud in the sky, rather than clinging to it like a storm we must endure. This practice of inquiry doesn't make the mind silent overnight, but it softens the intensity. It builds a quiet strength within, the kind that no longer bows to every fearful whisper, the kind that can remain grounded even when the stories come knocking. The freedom of now. Freedom begins not when all your fears are gone, but when you stop giving them your belief. When you stop allowing your imagination to rob you of the joy, peace, and presence available in this moment. Because here, now in the breath you're taking, and the ground beneath your feet, there is no catastrophe, no rejection, no loss, just life, quiet, pulsing, alive. And as you return again and again to the present, the burden of imagined fears begins to loosen. Not because you've conquered fear, but because you've stopped mistaking it for truth. This is the gift of awareness. This is the wisdom of Buddhist practice, the path that leads you not away from fear, but through it into clarity, into spaciousness, into the grounded peace of reality. The practice of letting go of imagined fears. Letting go of imagined fears is not about suppressing or denying them, but about releasing our attachment to them. It's about recognizing their nature as mental constructs and choosing not to give them power over our emotions and actions. Here are some practical ways to let go of imagined fears. Mindfulness and meditation. Regular mindfulness meditation helps us develop the capacity to observe our thoughts without becoming identified with them. By sitting quietly and focusing on the breath, we learn to witness the arising and passing of thoughts, including those related to imagined fears. We can then choose not to engage with these thoughts, allowing them to dissolve on their own. The what-if exercise. When confronted with an imagined fear, take a moment to explore it fully. Ask yourself, what's the worst that could happen? Then what's the best that could happen? Finally, what's most likely to happen? This exercise helps put the fear into perspective and often reveals that the worst-case scenario is highly unlikely. Visualization of release. Visualization can be a powerful tool for releasing imagined fears. Imagine gathering all your fears into a bundle and placing them on a raft. Then visualize pushing the raft away from the shore, watching as it drifts into the distance. This symbolic act helps create a mental shift and reinforces the intention to release these burdens. Embracing uncertainty. At the heart of letting go of imagined fears is embracing uncertainty. Buddhism teaches that uncertainty is an inherent part of life, and resisting it only creates suffering. By accepting that the future is unknown and that we can't control every variable, we free ourselves from the need to mentally prepare for every possible outcome. Uncertainty isn't something to be feared, but rather something to be welcomed as an opportunity for growth and discovery. When we embrace uncertainty, we open ourselves to new possibilities and experiences that we couldn't have imagined or planned for. The ripple effect of releasing imagined fears. Releasing imagined fears doesn't just benefit us individually, it has a positive impact on our relationships and communities as well. When we're not preoccupied with anxiety about the future, we can be more present and attentive to others. We become better listeners, more compassionate friends, and more engaged participants in our communities. In workplaces, schools, and families, the release of imagined fears can lead to more collaborative and harmonious environments. When we're not projecting our anxieties onto others, we can interact with greater authenticity and openness. Overcoming resistance to releasing fears. Resistance to releasing imagined fears often stems from a place of self-protection. We believe that by worrying, we're preparing ourselves for potential challenges. We think that if we don't worry, we'll be caught off guard and unprepared. However, this belief is based on a misunderstanding of how preparation works. True preparation involves taking practical steps in the present moment, not mentally rehearsing every possible negative outcome. By focusing on what we can control in the here and now, we can prepare effectively without burdening ourselves with unnecessary anxiety. Cultivating a new relationship with fear. The journey of releasing imagined fears is not about eliminating fear altogether, but about developing a healthier relationship with it. Fear, in its appropriate context, serves as a valuable signal that something needs our attention. The goal is to discern when fear is a legitimate warning and when it's an imagined construct. When fear arises, we can pause, breathe, and ask ourselves if the threat is immediate and real or if it's a product of our imagination. By doing so, we transform fear from a source of suffering into a guide that helps us navigate life more consciously. Conclusion. The burden of imagined fears is a heavy one, but it's a burden we can choose to release. By understanding the nature of these fears, recognizing their impact on our well-being and practicing mindfulness and discernment, we can free ourselves from the suffering they create. Embracing uncertainty and developing a healthier relationship with fear allows us to live more fully in the present moment where peace, joy, and authentic connection await. Lesson 5. Control blocks faith. In the journey through Buddhist teachings, we arrive at a profound truth that challenges the very foundation of how we navigate life. Control blocks faith. This lesson invites us to examine the ways in which our attachment to control creates barriers to trust, and how releasing this need can open us to a deeper sense of faith, peace, and connection with life's natural flow. The illusion of control. We live in a world that equates control with safety and success. From a young age, we're taught to plan, prepare, and micromanage every aspect of our lives in the belief that doing so will shield us from harm and guarantee favorable outcomes. We cling to the illusion that we can orchestrate life according to our desires, often fearing that without our constant intervention, everything will fall apart. This illusion of control is a form of fear, a fear that without our guidance, life will spiral out of control and lead to suffering. Yet this very attempt to control creates its own form of suffering. It traps us in a cycle of anxiety, tension, and fatigue as we constantly strive to manage outcomes that are ultimately beyond our reach. Control versus faith. Opposing forces. Buddhism presents control and faith as opposites. Control is rooted in fear and separation. It assumes that we are apart from the universe and must assert our will to survive and thrive. Faith, on the other hand, is rooted in trust and interconnectedness. It recognizes that we are part of a greater whole, and that life has its own wisdom and timing. When we prioritize control, we push faith aside. We refuse to believe that life can unfold in ways that are beneficial to us without our constant interference. We doubt the universe's ability to support us and instead take matters into our own hands, often creating more chaos than clarity. The consequences of control. Our obsession with control has several detrimental consequences. Chronic anxiety. The need for control generates constant anxiety. We worry about whether our plans will succeed, whether we've considered every possibility, and whether we're doing enough. This anxiety becomes a background noise in our lives, draining our energy and undermining our well-being. Missed opportunities. By focusing excessively on controlling outcomes, we become closed to opportunities that arise spontaneously. We're so fixed on our predetermined path that we fail to notice detours that might lead to greater fulfillment and growth. Burnout. The relentless pursuit of control is exhausting. It requires constant vigilance and effort, leaving us drained and disconnected from our true selves. Burnout becomes inevitable as we try to manage every aspect of life. Relationship strain. Control can damage our relationships. When we try to control others or situations, we create resistance and friction. We push people away by not allowing them the freedom to be themselves, and we miss out on the richness of authentic connection. Faith, a powerful alternative. Faith is not about blind belief or passivity. It's about trusting in the natural unfolding of life and recognizing that we don't have to have all the answers. Faith invites us to take inspired action while releasing our attachment to specific outcomes. It allows us to welcome mystery and uncertainty, understanding that they are integral parts of life's journey. Faith doesn't mean abandoning responsibility, but rather approaching life with a sense of openness and trust. It's like planting a seed. You prepare the soil, plant the seed and water it, but you don't yank it from the ground to force it to grow. You trust in the natural process and allow time and conditions to do their work. The neuroscience of control and faith, modern neuroscience, offers insights into how control and faith affect our brains. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for planning and decision-making, is highly active when we're focused on control. This constant activation can lead to decision fatigue and stress. On the other hand, practices that cultivate faith, such as meditation and mindfulness, activate the parasympathetic nervous system, promoting relaxation and well-being. They reduce activity in brain regions associated with anxiety and increase activity in areas linked to emotional regulation and contentment. Cultivating faith in daily life. Shifting from control to faith is a practice that requires patience and persistence. Here are practical ways to cultivate faith in your daily life. Mindful surrender. Mindful surrender involves taking a moment to acknowledge your desire for control and then consciously releasing it. You can do this through a simple practice. When you notice yourself becoming anxious about an outcome, pause, take a deep breath, and silently say, "I release my need to control this outcome. I trust in life's wisdom." Daily reflection. End each day with a reflection on moments when you either exercised control or surrendered to faith. Ask yourself, where did I try to control today and what was the result? Where did I practice faith and how did that feel? What can I learn from these experiences? Letting go exercise. Identify one area of your life where you're holding on tightly to control. It could be a decision you're struggling with, a relationship dynamic, or a work project. Write about this area in your journal, expressing your fears and desires, then write a letter of release, stating your intention to surrender this area to the wisdom of life. Keep this letter somewhere visible as a reminder of your commitment. Trusting in the unseen. Faith asks us to trust in the unseen forces that shape our lives. This doesn't mean ignoring practical realities, but rather recognizing that there's more to life than what meets the eye. Many spiritual traditions speak of this unseen wisdom, whether as grace, karma, or the natural order of the universe. By trusting in the unseen, we create space for synchronicities and blessings to enter our lives. We become receptive to guidance that comes through intuition, coincidence, and the wisdom of others. We open ourselves to the possibility that life is on our side and that we don't have to navigate it alone. The ripple effect of faith. Cultivating faith doesn't just transform our individual experience, it has a profound impact on those around us. When we release our need for control, we create space for others to step into their power and wisdom. We become more collaborative, more trusting, and more connected in our relationships. In communities and organizations, faith fosters environments of creativity, innovation, and resilience. When members trust in the collective wisdom and natural flow of the group, they're more likely to take risks, support one another, and adapt to change with grace. Overcoming resistance to faith. Resistance to faith often stems from fear of the unknown and a sense of vulnerability. To overcome this resistance, acknowledge your fears. Take time to explore the fears that underlie your need for control. Write them down and examine them with curiosity rather than judgment. Understanding your fears can help you address them more effectively. Start small. Begin by surrendering control in small, manageable areas of your life. This could be something as simple as letting go of the need to plan every detail of a social gathering or trusting that a work project will unfold as it should. Small successes in releasing control can build your confidence in faith. Connect with a community, surround yourself with people who understand and practice faith. Their support and perspective can help you navigate the challenges of releasing control and reinforce your commitment to this journey. Embracing the mystery of life. At its core, faith is about embracing the mystery of life. It's about accepting that we don't have all the answers and that we don't need to. It's about finding peace in the unknown and discovering that life's beauty often lies in its unpredictability. When we release our need for control, we open ourselves to a deeper connection with life itself. We become participants in a grand dance of existence, moving with grace and trust rather than fighting against the current. We find that peace and contentment aren't achieved through control, but are revealed when we let go. Conclusion: control blocks faith, but releasing control opens the door to a richer, more fulfilling life. By understanding the limitations of control and the transformative power of faith, we can begin to shift our approach to life. Through mindfulness, surrender, and trust, we can move from a place of fear to a place of faith, discovering that life is not something to be conquered, but something to be experienced with open hearts and minds. Lesson 6. Letting go enables growth. In the journey of exploring Buddhist teachings, we arrive at a lesson that speaks to the transformative power of release. Letting go enables growth. This lesson invites us to recognize how worry and fear of what might go wrong can subtly shrink our world, and how the act of releasing these burdens can open us to courage, creativity, and joy. The shrinking world of worry. Worry often begins as a quiet voice in the back of our minds, whispering caution and doubt. Over time, if we listen too closely to these whispers, they can grow louder and more insistent. We start to shrink our goals because they feel too uncertain, soften our voice because we fear judgment, and guard our heart because it's safer not to risk being hurt. Worry, under the guise of protection, becomes a cage that restricts our potential and confines us to a limited existence. This shrinking isn't always obvious. It happens gradually, almost imperceptibly, as we adjust our expectations and actions to avoid discomfort. We tell ourselves we're being careful, but in reality, we're allowing fear to dictate the boundaries of our lives. The river analogy, releasing to flow. Imagine standing in a rushing river trying to cup water in your hands. The harder you squeeze, the faster the water slips through your fingers. But when you relax your hands and allow them to float, the river carries you forward. This is the essence of surrender. The more we release our grip on fear and worry, the more we allow life to move through us in its natural flow. Letting go isn't about passivity, it's about trusting that life has its own rhythm and direction. It's about recognizing that we don't have to force everything into being. Just as a river finds its course through the landscape, our lives can navigate their way forward when we stop damming the flow with fear and control. The courage to let go. Letting go requires courage. It asks us to step into the unknown, to release the security of familiar patterns, and to trust in something greater than ourselves. It's the strength to stop shrinking and to start living with an open heart. This courage isn't about recklessness, but about calculated release. It's about knowing what truly belongs to us, our thoughts, choices, and actions, and releasing what we cannot control. It's about pouring the energy we once spent on worry into creation, connection, and trust. The expansion of release. When we let go, we create space within ourselves for new possibilities to emerge. Letting go is expansive. It invites growth, creativity, and joy into our lives. It's like opening a window in a stuffy room, allowing fresh air and light to flow in. By releasing fear, we make room for courage. By releasing doubt, we create space for confidence. By releasing control, we allow for spontaneous opportunities and unexpected blessings. Letting go isn't an ending, it's a beginning of growth and transformation. Practical steps to letting go. Letting go is not a passive act, but an active practice. Here are some practical steps to help you release worry and fear and embrace growth. The mindful awareness. Begin by cultivating awareness of when worry arises. Notice the physical sensations and emotional responses that accompany worry. By bringing mindful attention to these moments, you create space between the worry and your reaction to it. The letting go ritual. Create a tangible ritual to symbolize releasing your worries. This could be writing down your fears on a piece of paper and burning it, placing them in a journal and setting it aside, or visualizing releasing them into a flowing river. Rituals provide a powerful way to reinforce your intention to let go. Daily affirmations. Use daily affirmations to reframe your relationship with worry. Repeat phrases such as, "I release my fear and embrace the present moment. I have the courage to let go and trust in life's flow. I create space for growth by releasing what no longer serves me." Acts of creation. Channel the energy from worry into creative expression. Paint, write, dance, or sing. As a way to transform anxiety into something beautiful and tangible. Creativity is a natural antidote to worry. The ripple effect of letting go. Letting go doesn't just benefit you individually, it has a positive impact on those around you. When you release worry and fear, you create space for more authentic connections with others. You become more present, more engaged, and more available for meaningful relationships. In communities and workplaces, the practice of letting go fosters environments of trust and collaboration. When individuals release their need to control and worry, they contribute to a collective atmosphere of peace and creativity. Overcoming resistance to letting go. Resistance to letting go often stems from fear of the unknown or a sense of vulnerability. To overcome this resistance, acknowledge your fear. Take time to explore the fears that underlie your need to hold on. Write them down and examine them with curiosity rather than judgment. Understanding your fears can help you address them more effectively. Start small. Choose one area of your life where you can practice letting go. This could be something as simple as releasing the need to control a conversation or allowing someone else to take the lead in a project. Small successes in letting go can build your confidence to release more significant burdens. Seek support. Connect with others who understand the journey of letting go. Share your experiences and fears with trusted friends, family, or a community of like-minded individuals. Their support and perspective can help you navigate challenges and reinforce your commitment to growth. Embracing the journey of letting go. Letting go is not a one-time event, but a continuous journey. It's about developing a new relationship with worry and fear, one where you recognize their presence, but don't allow them to dictate your life. It's about choosing, moment by moment, to release what no longer serves you and to embrace the present with openness and curiosity. As you continue to practice letting go, you'll discover that growth happens naturally when we stop shrinking from fear. You'll find that the energy you once spent on worry can be redirected toward creating, connecting, and living fully. You'll realize that freedom begins the moment you choose to let go. Conclusion. Letting go enables growth, a profound truth that invites us to release the burdens of worry and fear and step into a more expansive, joyful way of living. By understanding the shrinking nature of worry and practicing mindful release, we create space for courage, creativity, and connection to flourish. Letting go is not about weakness, but about strength. The strength to trust in life's flow and to embrace the unknown with openness and grace. Lesson 7. Life begins to flow when you step aside. In the final lesson of this exploration of Buddhist teachings, we arrive at a transformative truth. Life functions best when we stop trying to control every inch of it. This lesson invites us to recognize how our constant interference and need to micromanage can create resistance and chaos, and how stepping aside with trust allows life to unfold with its own wisdom and rhythm. The illusion of control. We live in a culture that equates control with safety and success. We're taught from a young age that we must plan, predict, and manage every aspect of our lives to achieve our goals and avoid failure. This belief in control is so ingrained that we often don't question it, even when it leads to stress, anxiety, and burnout. But control is largely an illusion. Despite our best efforts, life is inherently unpredictable. No matter how carefully we plan, unexpected events will always disrupt our carefully laid plans. The more we try to control every variable, the more frustrated we become when things don't go our way. The consequences of interference, constant interference, and life's natural flow have several detrimental consequences. Increased resistance and chaos. When we try to force outcomes or micromanage situations, we often create more resistance than flow. We push against the natural direction of events, causing friction and chaos. This can lead to conflicts in relationships, missed opportunities, and a general sense of frustration. Burnout and exhaustion. The energy required to constantly control and manage every aspect of life is exhausting. We become drained from the effort of trying to keep everything in check, leading to burnout and disconnection from our true selves. Missed opportunities. By being overly focused on our predetermined plans, we can miss out on spontaneous opportunities that might lead to greater fulfillment. Sometimes the best things in life happen when we're open to the unexpected. Loss of trust. Constant interference reflects a lack of trust in life's natural wisdom. It suggests that we don't believe life can work in our favor without our constant intervention, fostering a sense of separation and fear. The wisdom of non-interference. Buddhism teaches that by releasing the need to interfere, we make space for life to unfold with its own intelligence. This doesn't mean becoming passive or apathetic, but rather discerning what is truly ours to act upon and surrendering the rest. Life in its natural state has its own rhythm and direction. Just as a stream naturally finds its course through the landscape, your life can navigate its way forward when you stop damming it with fear and control. The practice of stepping aside. Stepping aside is an active practice of trust and release. It involves cultivating awareness. Begin by observing when you're clinging too tightly to outcomes or micromanaging situations. Notice the physical and emotional sensations that accompany this need for control. Ask reflective questions when you notice yourself interfering. Ask, what would happen if I loosened my grip here? What's the worst that could happen if I stepped back? How might life surprise me if I allowed it to flow? Mindful surrender practice. Practice mindful surrender by taking a moment to acknowledge your need for control and then consciously releasing it. This can be as simple as pausing, taking a deep breath, and silently affirming your willingness to trust life's flow. The ripple effect of stepping aside. When we release our need to interfere, we create space for life to support us in unexpected ways. Opportunities arise from unforeseen places, solutions emerge without being forced, and we begin to feel carried by something greater than ourselves. This practice also has a positive impact on our relationships. When we stop trying to control others or situations, we create space for authentic connections and collaboration. Overcoming resistance to stepping aside. Resistance to stepping aside often stems from fear of the unknown or lack of trust in life's wisdom. To overcome this resistance, acknowledge your fear. Take time to explore the fears that underlie your need for control. Write them down and examine them with curiosity rather than judgment. Start small. Choose one area of your life where you can practice stepping aside. This could be something as simple as allowing a conversation to unfold naturally or trusting that a project will progress without constant oversight. Connect with a community. Surround yourself with people who understand and practice trust in life's flow. Their support and perspective can help you navigate the challenges of releasing control. Embracing life's natural rhythm. Stepping aside invites us into a deeper relationship with life's natural rhythm. It's about recognizing that we're part of something greater than ourselves, and that life has its own timing and wisdom. When we embrace this rhythm, we discover that peace and fulfillment come not from controlling outcomes, but from aligning with the flow of life. We learn to dance with life rather than fighting against it. Conclusion: life begins to flow when you step aside. At the end of this journey through Buddhist wisdom, we arrive at a truth both humbling and liberating. Life does not require our control in order to unfold beautifully. In fact, the more we try to dominate its movements, the more disconnected and exhausted we become. But when we take a breath, loosen our grip and step aside, not in defeat but in devotion, we make room for something extraordinary. We make room for life itself. There is a quiet intelligence within life, a rhythm too vast to grasp and too intricate to predict. And this intelligence begins to carry us the moment we stop insisting on our own way, the moment we stop seeing ourselves as the commander of life's flow and begin to dance with it instead. This is not passivity. This is not giving up. This is alignment. This is the grace of trusting something deeper than control, trusting that even without knowing every step, we can still find our way.
The illusion of battle.
We are taught from an early age that life is a battle, a fight for success, a struggle against time, competition, adversity. We learn to brace ourselves, to sharpen our edges, to push through, always pushing, always proving. But this metaphor, life as a battlefield, breeds tension. It teaches us to expect conflict. It teaches us to protect, to conquer, to win. And in doing so, it quietly seeds a sense of separation, us versus life, us versus the unknown. But what if the struggle was never necessary? What if the battle was never real? Buddhist wisdom offers us a gentler, more truthful metaphor: life as a dance, a fluid, unpredictable, ever-changing dance. Not a rigid performance with a pre-written script, but an invitation to move, to feel, to adapt, to trust. Dancing with life. In a dance, you don't force your steps. You feel the rhythm. You listen. You respond. You're present in the movement, adjusting as the music changes. There is grace in this. There is freedom. The dance becomes effortless, not because it's perfect, but because you've surrendered to the flow. Life is much the same. Its music isn't always predictable. Sometimes it speeds up, sometimes it slows down. Sometimes it calls for bold steps, and other times for stillness. But in every shift, there is an opportunity to move with grace, to trust the unfolding. And in doing so, something inside us softens. Anxiety gives way to awareness. Force gives way to flow. Control gives way to connection. The practice of alignment. To live in harmony with life is a practice, a sacred return again and again to presence and trust. It's not a one-time choice, but a moment-by-moment invitation. Cultivate mindful presence. Mindfulness is your doorway into the dance. It's how you sense the rhythm. Whether you're sitting in meditation or washing dishes, the practice is the same. Be fully here. Let this moment be enough. Let it reveal its wisdom. Release attachments. Attachment binds us to outcomes, creating tension between what is and what we want. Take action, but release the obsession with results. Offer your effort and then let go. Trust that life knows how to carry what you've planted. Trust in life sips wisdom. Every setback, every detour, every unanswered question may be part of a deeper unfolding. What if life isn't happening to you, but for you? What if every twist in the path is guiding you somewhere meaningful, somewhere your plans could never take you? Embrace the freedom of non-attachment. Non-attachment doesn't mean detachment. It means holding life with open hands, loving without fear, pursuing dreams without clinging, letting life be what it is, while staying rooted in your own peace. The ripple effect of inner harmony. When you begin to align with life's rhythm, something remarkable happens, not just within you, but around you. Your presence becomes a calming influence. Your acceptance becomes an invitation. Others feel your ease, your openness, and begin to mirror it. You create ripples of trust, of peace, of possibility. This is how alignment transforms not just a single life, but a community, a culture, a world. Overcoming resistance. Still, surrender isn't easy. Resistance will rise, fear of uncertainty, discomfort with not knowing, the ache to control. Don't fight this resistance. Meet it with kindness. Explore it with curiosity. Ask, what am I afraid will happen if I let go? What burden am I still carrying? Start small. Choose one area of your life to release your grip. Let a conversation unfold without managing every word. Let a plan bend without falling apart. Watch how life steps in when you step aside. Find support in others walking this path. Share your questions. Listen to their stories. Remember, you are not alone in this. Embracing life's dance. In the end, this journey is not about arriving at a perfect place. It's about learning to move with the music. It's about experiencing life not as a challenge to conquer, but as a sacred unfolding to witness, to feel, to flow with. There will be missteps. There will be moments when the rhythm feels unclear, but even then, you are still in the dance, and that in itself is enough. So, take a breath, take a step, loosen your grip. Let life lead you, not with force, but with faith. Because when you stop insisting, stop resisting, stop trying to orchestrate every note, you begin to feel something ancient, something timeless. Life moving through you, life dancing with you. And in that space, soft, surrendered, open, you will find what you were searching for all along: peace, clarity, connection, and the quiet joy of finally belonging to the rhythm of it all. Final reflections. One breath, one step, one moment at a time. As you come to the end of this path through Buddhist teachings, pause, not to rush onward, but to simply breathe and feel what has stirred within you. Let this be a sacred pause, a moment of stillness to honor how far you've come, not just through these words, but through your own quiet evolution. Perhaps something in these lessons has resonated deeply. Perhaps a line, a story, a reflection opened a doorway within you. Perhaps you're still holding questions, and that too is part of the journey. Growth is not always about arriving at answers. Sometimes it's about becoming more willing to sit with the questions, to live them, to let them shape us slowly. This path is not one of perfection. It never was. Buddhist wisdom doesn't ask you to become flawless or unshakably serene. It invites you to become more human, more present, more tenderly awake. It invites you to notice the small moments, the breath before a decision, the pause before a reaction, the stillness beneath the noise, and to choose alignment instead of resistance, presence instead of performance, trust instead of control. Progress here is not measured in grand achievements. It's measured in micro shifts, the softening of your voice, the unclenching of your jaw, the courage to rest, the willingness to let go. These are the quiet revolutions of the spirit. These are the sacred steps toward freedom. Remember, life is not a war to be won by force, by pushing, or by relentless control. That's the old story. That's the myth of the battlefield. The truth is gentler and far more powerful. Life is a dance, an unfolding, a conversation between your breath and the infinite. And when you step out of the role of the controller, the fixer, the fighter, you begin to feel the music. You begin to move with grace, not despite the chaos, but within it. You discover a kind of freedom that no success or status could ever offer. The freedom of being fully here, the freedom to be real, to be soft, to be open, to belong. Not because you've conquered life, but because you've finally begun to flow with it. So let this not be an ending, but a beginning. May these teachings continue to whisper to you when you need them most, in moments of uncertainty, in waves of self-doubt, in the quiet mornings when all you can do is breathe. Let them live in your choices, in your silence, in your laughter. And as you walk forward, one breath, one step, one moment at a time, may you dance with life gently, bravely, and with a heart that knows you are already enough. You are already held. And you are already home.